Without an advocate, it's easy for the body of a Jane or John Doe to be forgotten, states an article from Oregon Public Broadcasting. It's easier still in a sprawling metropolis where there are potentially hundreds of unidentified decedents. It was a coroner for the city of Las Vegas who first made it possible for many of these Jane and John Does to find such advocates. P. Michael Murphy was the first to put actual photos of some of the nearly 200 unidentified decedents dating back decades on the internet, appealing to the public for people to help identify them. Were Jane and John Does identified before November 2003 when this website went live? Of course. But it was this idea that prompted other cities to make their UIDs public knowledge, and likely led to the U.S. Department of Justice's NamUs. Prior to that, word of mouth was necessary, and it was all too easy for UIDs to simply be forgotten, unless there was something unique or interesting enough about their situation to merit being featured on shows like Unsolved Mysteries or America's Most Wanted. Jane Annie Doe found her advocate when a deputy sheriff named Kari Lee stumbled upon her skeletal remains in storage shortly after she began working for the Josephine County Sheriff's Department. Lee entered Annie Doe into NamUs in 2013 and, partially through her efforts, has generated more knowledge about this mysterious woman found dead from unknown means halfway between Cave Junction, Oregon and the Oregon-California border. Annie Doe's remains were found in 1971, but they have never been claimed or identified. Annie Doe was found on August 19, 1971, by a father and son who were camping nearby. She was found in a wooded area near milepost 35 on U.S. Highway 199, also called Redwood Highway, in what appeared to be used as a dumping area. This image shows what the area looked like in 2015. Her remains were found fully dressed and in a skeletal state, but had long red or auburn hair with what are described as dyed blonde streaks. I take this to mean blonde highlights. She was partially covered by debris, and the cause of death was not able to be determined. Annie Doe's resting place was only 6.5 miles, or about 10.5 kilometers, north of the Oregon-California border, and she was about that far south of the small town of Cave Junction, Oregon. In the 2010 census, Cave Junction numbered only 1,883 people. The census data for 1970, however, suggests a population of 415. Today there has been clearing in the area where she was found, as well as a few structures built that may not have been there at the time. There is also the still smaller unincorporated community of O'Brien, Oregon, immediately south of where she was found, which even today barely tops 500 people. Annie Doe was nearly skeletal, save for her long red or auburn hair with dyed blonde highlights, but fully dressed, wearing a checkered pink and beige, double-breasted, waist-length belted coat with 6 pink buttons, a tan or beige long-sleeved turtleneck shirt with a zipper in the back, blue Wrangler brand jeans in Mrs. size 13 to 14 slim, brown Prim Style brand size 8.5 imitation leather shoes with heels, straps, and gold buckles, a white Lovable brand bra in size 34B, and blue, purple, and white striped panties. The Prim Style shoe and slipper brand was trademarked by Woolworths, and one of these shoes still has a visible price of $5.99. She was wearing 2 distinctive rings. The first was an imitation mother-of-pearl ring with a braided silver band and the letters AL scratched into the stone. The second is a sterling silver band with diagonal chevron scoring. It is stamped MH and is size 6.5. Some sources call this a friendship ring, which the website Our Everyday Life explains often resemble a wedding band in these modern times. Further exploration of the term also brings up the possibility of a friendship ring being a pre-engagement ring, but I doubt it would be so plain if that were the case. However, since there doesn't seem to be any interpretation in the case information where it could be a wedding band, I would venture that it wasn't found on the customary left ring finger where one might also expect to find a pre-engagement ring. Either interpretation would suggest that someone would be aware of Annie Doe being either the friend with the other ring or the partner in the relationship. In Annie's possession were 38 cents in her pocket, the oldest coin being from 1970, and a map of Northern California recreational sites. Since her body was found, as I said, a scant 6.5 miles north of the California state border, it can be speculated that one or more of those recreational sites were her destination or a place she had recently been. Near the body and taken into evidence was a hunting knife with deer blood on it. It is not known if it had anything to do with her death. Annie Doe's name likely originates from the color of her hair, reminiscent of Eileen Quinn in the 1982 movie adaptation of that musical. That hair color and the fact she was white are all we know for certain about her appearance. It is believed she died months prior to her discovery, sometime during 1970 or 1971. Based on the development of her third molars, or wisdom teeth, she is speculated to have been between 14 and 25 years of age when she died. She also had crooked teeth and was slightly buck-toothed, as well as having 4 fillings in her molars. Her height was between 5 foot 2 inches and 5 foot 9 inches, or 157 and 175 centimeters, and her estimated weight was approximately 125 pounds, or approximately 57 kilograms in mass. Since she was skeletal, I assume the weight was gathered based on her height, bone size, and clothing sizes. If 125 pounds seems far too light for a size 13 to 14 in jeans, I would like to point out that women's clothing sizes in 1970 and today have almost no similarity due to the rise of vanity sizing. The oft-quoted fact that Marilyn Monroe was a size 12 is true, but a size 12 in 1958 could fall somewhere between a 00 and an 8 today, likely depending on the designer. If Annie Doe were buying Wrangler jeans today, she would probably be buying a pair between a 0 and a 3. Annie Doe's remains were found in 1971, and her dental records and DNA are available for comparison. As of yet, there have been no matches. One possibility for this could be that no one knows to look for her yet. There have been unidentified decedents who had a gap of years or even decades between the actual last time they were seen and the time they were finally reported missing. Take, for instance, Jason Callahan, who for 20 years was known as Grateful Doe, due to the t-shirt for the band The Grateful Dead he was wearing during the car accident that took his life. His mother had known that Jason had decided to live a lifestyle following the band around, but despite not having heard from him since 1995, didn't report him missing until 2015. Tammy Alexander was murdered in 1979 and was known as Caledonia Jane Doe, or Callie Doe, until, again, 2015, a period of more than 35 years. A former classmate had been trying to find her on social media but was unable to. She did, however, find Tammy's half-sister, who likewise hadn't heard from her since the late 70s, having only been told that Tammy had run away. Tammy had had a habit of doing that, and she had never been reported missing. Comparison of the sisters' mitochondrial DNA finally brought a name to Callie Doe. Her murder still hasn't been solved. The rings, particularly the imitation mother-of-pearl ring, are distinctive. Someone who had made or handled that ring especially could provide valuable evidence to the authorities investigating this cold case. Even if you can't positively identify the rings, perhaps you or a friend or a parent knew this young woman prior to her death. Someone no one would have been able to find on social media, just like Tammy Alexander. Many missing women have been compared to her DNA, mostly from around California and Oregon, but some from places as far away from where she was found as Florida, Massachusetts, and Texas. Her mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA are both available at the University of North Texas, reference number 06-4820. Annie Doe's remains were found on August 19, 1971, near Cave Junction, Oregon, and the Oregon-California border. It's believed she died between 1970 and 1971. She was between 14 and 25 when she died. She was white, with long red or auburn hair with dyed blonde highlights, and between 5 foot 2 inches and 5 foot 9 inches tall, or 157 to 175 centimeters. If you have any information regarding the identity or death of Jane Annie Doe, please contact the Josephine County Sheriff's Office at 541-474-5128. Please bear in mind that these are real stories about real people and treat them with the respect they and their families deserve. To contact the authorities regarding this case, their information can be found in the description. Someone out there knows the truth. I only hope that someday they come forward. Thank you and good night.